Hi. Today we're going to be talking about something that isn't necessarily the most pleasant topic. We're going to be talking about stress and trauma. Um, just really quickly, a short neurobiological breakdown of what happens when you get stressed out. When you're stressed, your body gets flooded with neurotransmitters that allow you to respond quickly to whatever is going on. So you've probably heard of adrenaline, and adrenaline allows you to focus and allows you to react. And that's a good thing, especially if you're in a situation where you need to make a quick decision, like if you're running away from a bear or something in the woods. That's not something that you want to have to mull over. You want to make sure that you are running and responding as quickly as possible, or fighting that threat if you need to. So that motivation to act quickly is something that we want to happen, and your brain is involved in making sure that all of the neurotransmitters that need to go out to the rest of your body so that you can respond goes out appropriately. And after the threat has passed, that response should stop. You shouldn't continue to produce these neurotransmitters even after the stress is dissipated. You really should only have the right amount of stress response for the right amount of time. If you get too much of a stress response, what can happen is instead of fight or flight, you might freeze. So you become so overwhelmed with what's going on that you can't function properly. That's not great either. We want, again, like I said, for the stress response to be appropriate for the amount of time and the amount of response. So not too little, not too much. There's another mechanism that happens in your brain when you are stressed out. It's called the HPA Axis, and it has three different components: your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your adrenal glands. Again, adrenaline is another is involved in this other mechanism as well. And again, the HPA axis is activated when there is a stressful situation, and after that stress has passed, you shouldn't continually have this mechanism continuing to produce this stress response. One of the things that is a product of the HPA axis is called cortisol. And cortisol is a specific chemical that goes all throughout your body. And if you have too much of it flooding your system, it actually can break down your cells in a way. Cortisol isn't all that great, especially in the long term. Now, I'm totally oversimplifying this in so many ways, but this is kind of the basic gist. When you have too much of a stress response or a prolonged stress response, your body is being flooded with more of the stress response chemicals than you really need. These go all throughout your body. And so the breakdown that happens in cells all over, in all of your systems. And that can be really, really dangerous, particularly if you're exposed to stress or if that stress response continues for a very long time. That's what we would call chronic stress. And chronic stress doesn't just affect you psychologically, but it also affects you physically as well. So when you are exposed to stressful events, when you are exposed to repeated stress, when you're exposed to traumatic events, that stress response is wearing down on both your mind and your body. Why am I talking about this? Well, we've had a lot of stressful things so far. As I am videoing this, it is June 2020, And the first months of 2020, we were inundated with a global pandemic, and the health ramifications of that and the social ramifications of that were just devastating on so many levels. The economic impacts of that. So many people have found themselves just stressed out over that in so many ways that we have never been able to see on this level before. But now we also have a lot of racial tensions that are happening because of systemic racism and discrimination that has been highlighted by police brutality. And all over the world, people are responding. And this was sparked by the recent killing of a man named George Floyd. Now, racism actually didn't go away when the pandemic came. It was always in the background. And it's something that people of color often will have in the back of their minds, continually producing stress, continually giving them more of a stress response than is really healthy for them, continually breaking down both mentally and physically their optimal level of performance and functionality. And so this stress that is repeatedly played out is devastating to communities of color, particularly Black communities, because it is a chronic state of being. And so when this incident happened where George Floyd was murdered and people saw that on their video screens, it was traumatic. Trauma doesn't just have to happen to you. You can be traumatized by vicarious trauma. So that means that it wasn't something that directly happened to you physically, but it's something that you saw, something that you may empathize with, something that you witnessed. And witnessing that 8 minutes and 46 seconds of a man trying to breathe and not being able to was vicariously traumatic for many, many people. And that, on top of COVID, on top of the continual racism that's always in the background, it has been devastating for many people, and in particular, Black communities. And so I want people to understand that when they say that they had a physiological response, I've heard people say, I felt sick to my stomach, or I couldn't sleep, or I felt just jittery after seeing that, or tense after seeing that. Those are normal psychological responses. That is what you would expect to happen if you're exposed to a traumatic event. This is part of how your body responds. And so that feeling of being unwell, that feeling of having your stomach tied in knots, or feeling restless, or not being able to focus, all of those things are normal. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to say that this has affected you, either emotionally or physically. That is a normal response. But we don't want to simply sit in this trauma. We want to find healing. And there are lots of different people, organizations, institutions that are trying to make sure that people are getting the help that they need. So what I want to do is I want to put some links in the description below that give you some resources that can help you if you are experiencing some of these psychological effects, and if you're feeling like this is overwhelming and you need to reach out for some help. If that's you, know that you're not alone. Know that what you're feeling is normal. Know that it's okay not to be okay, not to feel okay, not to act like everything's okay. It's fine to say that you're feeling affected by what's going on. And I want you to know that there are places and people who will help you to get through this. And I hope that even if this isn't your community, even if you yourself are not Black, that you will do what you can to change just this background of racism that we have going on all the time. That you do your part not just to be not racist, but that you will be actively anti-racist, and that you will extend empathy and kindness and understanding to your Black colleagues, classmates, co-workers, friends, and let them know that even if they're not okay right now with what's going on, that there is understanding and empathy and an ear to listen, and also a voice to speak on their behalf, so that this is not something that we have happen again.